Hello and welcome to part 2 of my historical recommendations, and this is going to talk about some documentaries and just some shows that I really think that you should watch. So first off, we're going to start with the educational stuff and then move on to the more fantastical fictional stuff. First off, I want to start with one documentary which I absolutely love and rewatch time and time again when I'm stuck in a rut. There was a documentary done on Amberlynn called The Last Days of Amberlynn, and it features a bunch of historians and a couple of writers going back and forth with their ideas of who Amberlynn was as a person and speculating on what her last days were filled with and why was she brought down, why did these charges were brought against her, and the way that it all went down. And it is just incredibly fascinating. I loved Alison Weir and Lipcomb. I loved David Astley in it. Oh, it was just such a good documentary. It's about an hour long and it was just so fascinating. The second one is from one of the historians in that, and it's called David Starkley. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's called The Six Wives of Henry V, and it is a four-part documentary tailing the lives of Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, and Catherine Parr, and one other Catherine. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but that as well is so good. And then the last documentary I want to recommend is one called Henry and Anne, and it's by Dr. Lipscomb, and she just goes through the romance of Henry and Anne and how that impacted the world in the century that they had done this, how that upheaval affected the world. And I just thought that these were so interesting. Another one that I really enjoy watching, it's probably about 5 minutes long. It's not really a documentary, but it's a look at how women in the 16th century dressed. And as an artist, I like watching those videos so I can accurately depict clothing in that time period, and just seeing how a lady got dressed in that time period was so cool. And so that's much for the documentary side of things. As you can tell, I'm huge into the Tudors period and all that. So next we're going to recommend some TV shows that I think you should watch, and my first recommendation is, as always, The Musketeers by BBC. It's got 3 seasons, it's beautiful, it's happy, it's joyous, it's emotional, it's everything you want in a Musketeers. Sword fighting, sexy men, action everywhere, romance, mystery solving. Oh, it was so good. I have all reviews for all 3 seasons. I will link them down below in the description. If you want to watch it, it's available on Stan, and I will leave a link to where you can get it on Stan. It's also available now on Netflix in Australia, and in the US it's on Netflix, and it's just an awesome show. I have like all 3 seasons on DVD. It is just so awesome. Howard Charles as Porthos is my favourite. I love Luke Pascoe as Diagon, Thomas as Athos, and Santo de Cabria as Aramis is so good. And like the women, it's got some of the most badass women in historical fiction. Milady and Constance, which is so perfect, and like Queen Anne was just awesome. I would highly recommend The Musketeers to anyone who is interested in historical fiction, and it's just so good. The next one I want to recommend to you guys is The Tudors, and this was on Showtime. It's also on Stan for you to watch, so if you want to go, links down below. The Tudors has John Rhys and Nally Domer as Henry and Anne respectively. Now, I have only watched the first 2 seasons because that's the storyline that focuses squarely on Anne. After that it moves to Jane Seymour and the rest of his wives. But for me, I just cared about the Catherine, Anne, Henry situation, and I love it. I love it so much. The dialogue is a bit cheesy at times, but it is so worth it. And just the chemistry between John and Natalie was just perfect. You could just picture them as Henry and Anne, and like the woman who played Catherine. Oh my God. I was like, this is perfect. I don't want to watch anymore. This was perfect. It was so awesome. It is so good. And if you're a fan of historical fiction, please check that out because that was just awesome. It's not entirely historically accurate, but they do stay accurate to most of the sources that they used to compile it. But it was just like, yes, yes. And the last two I really want to talk about. One I haven't seen a ton of, but I'm loving what I saw. And the next one is just a really super popular one that everyone knows. So the last one I want to talk about is Rain. And I've only seen about one episode of it, but I really think that you should at least check out that first episode because it's really cool. And the last one, you guessed it, Game of Thrones. Now, I will admit that Game of Thrones is problematic and it might not be some people's cup of tea, but for me personally, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the political intrigue. I enjoy the sword fighting. I enjoy action and political intrigue. I enjoy that, and that's what draws me into Game of Thrones. I am 6 or 7 seasons deep, and I am just loving it. I am aware that it's not everyone's cup of tea, and it really depends on your taste. But if you have not seen it yet, I really think you should at least just check it out. If you don't like it, that's fine. It's entirely up to you, but yeah. So thank you for watching this video on me recommending my favourite TV shows of historical fiction. I want more people to watch these shows. More so the first ones that I recommended and the documentaries. If you're entirely interested, I really recommend everything that I've talked about here. I will leave links to everything down below. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!